Okay, it looks now. It just was taking its sweet little time. Let's just make sure. Yeah. Okay. Looks like we are live. Yay.
Yay.
Welcome to Everybody Has a Story. And if you want to be a guest sometime to speak about anything that you're passionate about, please reach out to me. I would love to have you and hear what you have to say. Today with me, I have Marianne Howard, and she is the author of the co-author of a book, The Shadow of a Bass Man. And it's all about like the Beatles and Paul McCartney. Just a sec, I got to close some things over here, but yeah, really interesting stuff. Welcome, first of all, Marianne.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
It's nice to actually finally talk to you.
I know, isn't this cool?
We chat and we see each other and we're on our, friends, and yeah, it is very cool.
It is.
It's a great way to get to know everybody.
Yes, it is.
And our little family, because we are part of that family too. So.
Yeah, lots of families going on these days for sure, which is so essential and so beautiful, and the relationships that are growing and coming out of that. Yes, I do feel very blessed to be doing something like this, to meet people like you, and to have this intimate platform, this one-on-one. I love it. It's wonderful. So yeah, wow, where do we even begin? So.
Don't know, because there's so much, like you said before we got on, it's a lot.
Yeah, like I didn't even know that there was this theory that Paul McCartney died in 1966 or around there.
66, and we're putting it in November of 66, based on the drum cover from the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and just some other information that we've had. Some people were trying to say it was 9/11. Well, we're going with 11/9. It doesn't matter. It's still the numbers. Everybody gets all hung up on numbers these days. So that's been going on for a long time, the numbers that have been used.
Yeah. So this is the first time that I've heard about it. And I imagine anybody that's watching this might be the first time that you're hearing about it. You're probably going, what? Like maybe we've lost you already. So just stay with us.
Hang out and see what you think.
Yeah, there is a method to the madness and to the theory. People don't just come up with these on their own. There's
this theory. This actually came out in 1969, more so in the United States than it did in Britain. It evolved from some of the universities. They started listening to the post-Paul era of the Beatles, this from Sgt. Pepper on, and they left clue after clue after clue on those records, and they still do, and they carry them on into their solo careers, plus the backmasking. So for somebody who wants to say, it didn't happen, well, then why all the clues? Why does it continuously going on? But yeah, that's where it started. It started with the DJs in the United States and with the college students in 69.
Yeah. Like curious beings, people who notice certain things and don't just slough it off or ignore.
No, they're great fans. They all love Paul and they wanted to know what happened. Yeah. And part of our story goes into that aspect later in the book, when we get to the point where we're actually introduced some college students who want to track down what happened to Paul. So yeah.
And do the research, and there is always things to find if you just take the time to do the research and not just ignore the signs and the little hints or whatnot. So maybe we could start with, well, first of all, why don't you just tell us who the co-author is so that we can put a shout out to her.
The co-author is Ann Walsh. Ann lives in the Midwest in another state. She's out in Missouri. We haven't ever had a face-to-face. So it's sort of, we're looking forward to that. We were introduced, and let me put it this way. Ann's been doing research on this aspect, Paul being dead, since for 9, almost 10 years. She's compiled a lot. The nonfiction book that we're putting together was a lot of her research. We're going through that, and we'll have the nonfiction book to give all these clues and oddity interviews and stories and whatever that are, backing us up on the book. We're also working on the sequel, which is crazy. We're doing both of those books now at the same time. She and I met through a mutual friend. And we just hit it off, and we decided we were just going to go for it. 6 weeks or so after we had met, we thought, well, this is silly. Why aren't we just writing this story in a nonfiction state, or in a fiction state, so we can tell the story. Yeah. So yeah, we were crazy. We just went for it.
Well, why not? Right?
Yeah, why not? So yeah, Anne is a wealth of knowledge, man. She's got so much in her head. All the facts and all the information is just, it's just second nature when you've been researching that long. And I've been researching this now for several years. Okay, but I knew I had heard it back a long time ago, and then you discounted it. But the thing is, I think a lot of us at my age who watched the Beatles when we were little and fell in love with Paul as, somebody always liked one of the four as far as the girls go. So I think everybody sort of noticed there was something odd. And then everybody was just like, oh, they're growing up, they're changing, they're getting married, they're doing this.
Yeah, there was more to it than that. So you were a fan forever. And
oh yeah.
That's how this ties in, and you guys had that commonality.
That's why it's like so heartfelt. Yeah. And a strong passion for getting that message out. Yeah. Because we're actually writing this story through Paul's eyes. What happened to him in those years leading up to his death and his replacement?
How many years was he part of the Beatles? Was the Beatles existing?
Well, he met John in the mid 50s, 56, 57. Then and they were together for 10 years they were together before he died. Okay. And John took that very hard. I think that's a lot of why John went into the drugs that he did. That's why George went in more into the religious aspect that he did. That's why they all went into the drugs. Yeah.
So you're saying that, they were all aware that
they were aware. They were aware. The Crown, nothing happens without the knowledge of the Crown, MI5. This is whenever there's an attempt, look at Kennedy. Kennedy was a big part of this thing too. Because Paul had aspects of wanting to know what was going on there. I'll get to that, but yeah, they have non-disclosure agreements, and all these people. From what I understand, it's common knowledge out there in the entertainment world. They just don't speak about it. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the entertainment world now that we're finding out that we had no idea was going on before. Right.
Yeah, I don't think people realize or understand that the entertainment industry is a business. It's not like people just being inspired and being these artists and things like that. It is a business, and it is a fine-tuned business. Yeah. Where there's lots of agreements in place. There's lots of dark stuff going on.
Dark stuff.
It's not what we're seeing and what we're being shown. There's so much in the scenes that is nasty, crazy. People would say conspiracy, so just slough it off. But this is real.
Well, where does that word conspiracy come from? From the Kennedys' assassination. The CIA put it out there to make people who believe in conspiracy theories sound like kooks.
Yeah. Yeah, and they did a good job.
And it's just people who want to know the truth.
That's right. Right. Well, who just feel something is off and they just want to learn more about it and question it. And that's our natural right, is to just be able to question things and do research for ourselves and think for ourselves. So Paul McCartney. So what have you discovered led up to his death, and why? Why did he have to die?
Well, okay, so I brought up the Kennedy aspect. Paul was very much into wanting to know what happened to Kennedy, knowing that it was an orchestrated event, a lot of not believing that it was a one-person deal back then. He had met Mark Lane, rushed to judgment. He was following the Warren Commission. Paul was very well, if you look at a lot of the pictures, he was constantly reading the papers, reading articles, paying attention to the news. He also was against segregation. There was a big stink down in Jacksonville when they were doing their tour in '64 because they were not going to play to a segregated audience. And they almost didn't do that concert because of that. Paul also would single out a Black photographer that was trying to get his picture and he was being pushed around. He went over and grabbed him, had him do a single photo shoot for himself, let him take pictures, which didn't please the other people that were there, pictures or money. But that was the type of person he was. There's a lot of interviews where he would be talking to somebody and he'd say, "Oh, you're going to stick around a while. You're going to hang out." He was just very congenial, very humble, didn't want to think too much of himself. He would sit there and say, "I don't want to just be known to being a Beatle. I want to have my children know me for something else." Mm-hmm. And I think these were all little strikes against him when it came to manipulation and wanting to control the Beatles to do an agenda for the British intelligence, which they had no idea at the time that was going on. Yeah.
deep stuff. I'm going to say
stuff. I just go.
Yeah,
my little tingles go.
I'm going to say, just get the book, read the book, decipher for yourself, do your own research.
Well, some people don't even maybe know Ted Kennedy, when Beatles were filming Help in the Bahamas, Ted Kennedy went to visit them. Why did he go and visit and spend time with John and Paul? And that's documented, and Paul's stepsister had made mention of that several times, that he was there in the Bahamas and visiting. So there's lots of stuff like that you just sort of sit there and go,
like connecting dots and things.
Dots. You got to connect the dots.
What essentially are we have you discovered that Paul died from? Was it an accident, or was it like a murder? Like, was he killed?
Well, if you go by the clues, they try to pretend like it was an accident. He had a car accident, and of course, then they would have to replace him. So the girls, they kept on saying, "Oh, the girls are committed suicide. They'll go crazy." And, what are they going to do? And at the time, they were the Crown's largest money maker. They're great. They're, George wrote Taxman because, they were taking all their money. It was a lot for them back then, going through a lot.
So his death came, but it was kept hidden. And then they brought in a replacement. And I don't think a lot of people, when we spoke last night a little bit, I was like, I can't really see the difference. Like, what is the difference? But people must notice. And then you sent me a bunch of information, and it was like, oh my goodness. Okay.
So the pictures I shared with you, what did you think? I'm going to flip one here.
Yeah. Well, the face is definitely bigger and longer in the
Mind you let your face grow long.
Yeah. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah. John put it in a song.
Yeah.
Paul had a round skull. Round. Billy has a longer skull, or in face shape. He's also, I want to say, maybe 2 inches taller. His shoe size is 1.5 sizes larger. And that's been documented on pictures. I just actually saw a picture of the bottom of Paul's Beatle boot, which had a size 8. I don't know what the UK size, had an 8 on it. Billy's are 9.5. Now, when Paul was taken out, he was 24.5. You don't grow. Your skull shape doesn't change. Your hands and your feet don't change like that.
And you don't grow an extra toe.
You don't grow an extra toe. You've heard that one, have you? Yay, Lonnie.
That was all last night. It was just all last night. It was like, I was just like feeding myself as much as I could just to kind of
well, and that's an anomaly. I'd like to actually see his foot to just see if that happened, or I'm sure it's probably had corrective surgery. I know he does have hallux abductus, that his toe would be bigger, sticking out. And I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but it's a big toe condition. So there's pictures of Paul's feet. He doesn't have that. So, these are little things. But what happened? The internet. The internet came into play. The Beatles were not only the most pictured band, they had video of everything.
Right.
I have 18 hours of video, unedited video from 63 to 66, 67. And it's got interviews and tours and all sorts of things, not CGI'd, because, they're going in there now and they are photoshopping. Somebody will send me a picture and say, what do you think about this? And the one was so obvious. They were trying to make Paul's picture look more like the replacement. And the chin, it was just like, what the heck did they do to this? It was a very bad job. But there's a lot of them that are out there that's not, that they're just very hard to, look at. Mm-hmm. But you always have the markers, like the one where I showed you the markers. You line up the traits, line up the things, line up the mouth, line up the ears. They don't match.
Yeah, like would he have had to have had like plastic surgery though to like have to look?
Oh yeah, I am one of my friends that didn't think about this. When I was showing her some of these things last year, she said, I wondered why he had all that plastic surgery. Why would a good-looking guy like Paul need plastic surgery?
Yeah, so
he needed to correct himself.
People that would really be fans and have been following would have probably noticed these things, but just
it's
reason, but
you don't notice something that you're not told to notice.
And even his personality.
If they're calling him Paul, people are going to say, well, that's Paul. It's like that was
it's disassociation.
Yeah. I almost think it's sort of like a Stockholm syndrome type aspect. We're the ones being held hostage here, though.
It's just really
all sorts of things.
And his personality would have had to have been different too. People must have known, like in interviews and just how he maybe presented himself. It just must have been known. Like
that's why I brought up how Paul treated people.
Yeah.
How he felt about himself. Paul was a melodic bassist. A lot of the bass playing now has come as a result of how he played. And it's very hard, and giving Billy his due, he's an excellent musician. Let's not, we're not disparaging him in any way, other than the fact that he walked in and took somebody else's identity. But no, he's a great musician, but it's very hard to be doing the tours that they did, playing left-handed as he did, and a bass player. It's not even left-handed. It's being a bass player and a lead singer. It's very unheard of when you look at musicians and the groups. But Paul was very melodic in his bass playing. I've had several people that are musicians tell me that they could see a change. There's video when you're looking, Paul never looked at his bass when he played. Billy looks down quite a bit. I think its bass is not his first. His first instrument is piano. He is an excellent piano player.
And it was what I came across last night too, a couple of things, differentiating things, is that, Paul was left-handed, and then Billy kind of became ambidextrous. So he was playing right and left.
He's naturally right-handed, in my opinion. Yeah. So he would pick up the guitar with his right hand. He would smoke with his right hand. He would do things, and then he'd catch himself, sort of things. Yeah.
And then things like, I was too young to, I wasn't even born. I know. I wasn't even born. I wasn't even born when the Beatles and stuff. So I wouldn't have noticed those things, and I don't notice them. And it's just, you're putting it in my face right now. And I'm going, wow, they're, wilder things do happen in this world. Like truth is stranger than fiction, right?
Right.
But can you tell us who Is it William or is just Billy? Like, can you tell us who he is?
Well, I imagine his name is William. But and the videos I showed you, you see people calling him Billy. Dana Carvey called him Billy in an interview by accident. He's like, member. Yeah, huh? Did you see that part? Yeah. Olivia Harrison called him Billy at a show. I used to think that the information that Heather Mills had over his head was the fact that she found out that he was Billy. But Olivia Harrison calls him Billy in front of her when they were at the memorial service concert for George. So she had to have known. So I still want to know what that's all about. We'll maybe find out someday.
Well, it seemed like all the band members referred to him as Billy.
I call him as Billy. That's his name.
They must have been so resistant to have to go along with
it. He resistant, and the fact that I think they would have gotten along a lot better if he wasn't so demanding and hard to deal with. And some of the Get Back video, you see that, George at one point just says, I'll do whatever you want me to do. What do you want me to do? Because he was just constantly at them. He took over, and that wasn't Paul. That was not his way. They were a collaboration and a team. And the team became more of a, I'm in charge.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that. Just from, I've never really resonated with Paul, but if I had known him before 66, I think I would have liked him.
Yeah.
We really liked Paul McCartney, just his energy.
Watch some of his videos before 60, that are of Paul.
Yeah. Yeah, I will now. Because I always thought he's kind of arrogant and just kind of airy.
No. Watch the David Frost interview of Paul in, I think it was 64.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just very quiet. The other thing that Paul did and did a lot in interviews, and it's probably why he smoked so much, he had a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. And I'm sure the last year and a half was very stressful as they were trying to get him to toe the line, and he wasn't. He was very resistant. So he, in the David Frost interview, you see it, he bites on his fingers. A lot of times he'll be doing that. Or if he's not chain smoking, he has his hands in his face at himself. Yeah. So once in a while, Billy tries to throw those things in there. He exaggerates himself to make people think that he's Paul.
Yeah.
He's constantly flicking his hair and moving his head. Paul only kept beat with his head while he was singing on tour in concert. He didn't do that just in regular life, in regular pictures and regular interviews. He never did that. But that's a way of saying, look, I'm Paul.
Yeah. So, and that was his job, right? Was to mimic Paul. It would be like having your own child, someone you've known their whole life and knowing their mannerisms, like inside and out. That's when you would notice if all of a sudden someone came and pretended to be my son. I would just know. You would just know. And
you have that innate, yes.
You would pick up on those little things for sure. But just for people that are watching, it is not an unknown fact that most of the stars and celebrities we see in the world do have doubles.
Yes.
They do have replacements that go out in public for them for certain reasons or whatever. It's just a known fact and it's reality. It's true. And you can even go and research it just like that. So this isn't like out of the ballpark that the Beatles definitely had these doubles.
But Billy was not a double. He wasn't one of their doubles because I don't believe he looked like Paul before he went through his transformation to be a double. Paul, they all had doubles. And it really, right now with the way this is, it muddies the water is what I always say. They really had to muddy the water, not knowing that this was going to happen, that we would be looking so intently at every little aspect, but yes, they had doubles so that the cars would go this way and they could go that way. I don't know how much a lot of people will say, oh, well, this person was a double one. People look at this so intently, like, was that really him in this concert and in that concert? Yes, they're Paul in the concerts. He did not have doubles they did not have doubles playing on tours, but they did bring doubles along with them.
Mm-hmm. Like as decoys or whatever. Because one of the videos that you shared led me to one, and they even showed a bunch of different pictures of like John Lennon, for example, and you could just distinctly tell like the nose was completely different in a few of those pictures and that kind of thing. So it's just what it is. I mean, that's just kind of a fact. That's the truth.
But when you're at a distance and you're looking at somebody like that and they have enough of the features that you would just say, yeah, that's him, and they can then just chase after that person.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the other guys go the other way.
Yeah. Can we just briefly go back to the beginning a little bit,
sure,
that are listening? And so at the time of Paul's supposed death, people were talking about it and had heard that he had died. Where was he? And was there like a time that went by where nobody did see or hear from him so that they could do all this transition in the background?
Yeah. So when they came back from the 66 tour, that was the end of August, the very end of August, the beginning of September. They all started doing separate things. They were on break. They had just released Revolver. They did the tour. They had a couple months break. Paul was working on a sound score for a movie separate from the Beatles. That's called The Family Way. Billy, I think, ended up finishing that with George Martin because it was a work in progress. John went to, and I think this is one of those things too, Paul was sort of isolated at this time, September, October. John was in Spain filming who won the, how we won the war, or how the war was won, or whatever. It was a World War II movie. He came back at the time when I believe Paul died. And it just happens, that's where our book begins, with John coming back saying he can't find Paul and he's freaking out. George went to India. So they were all sort of scattered. So this thing where they were in the studio and they had an argument and Paul left and it was a rainstorm. Give me a break. They weren't in the studio. Paul maybe had been in the studio, but he only lived 3 blocks from the studio. He walked to the studio half the time. So yeah, he wasn't driving his car in a pouring down rainstorm to go 3 blocks and picking up a hitchhiker to die. You know what I mean? Which is a day in the life sort of scenario of what happened. I believe that his car was tampered with. I think he probably was up at his dad's. He would frequently go up there on weekends, leave up late Friday night and come back Sunday. I think his brakes were tampered, and I believe he was taken out at the scene of the crime. We get into the details of that in the book.
Yeah, so just get the book. It's really cool.
Just get the book. Yeah.
It's like a detective. You get to
we look at it as the book can be for anybody who loves murder mysteries, which I always did. The book is layered that way. If you want a good murder mystery, it's a good murder mystery. If you like those and you like Beatle lore, we have plenty of facts in there. I mean, obviously throughout the whole book, we're telling Paul's story and where they were and what they said. We have, footnotes, lots.
Yeah.
And if you believe that Paul was replaced, then here's a place for you to start and do some research. There's a lot of paragraphs where I'll say there's a line in this paragraph. If somebody is discernment enough, that they will see that it is something that they should be maybe researching further.
Yeah. So either way, it's going to be a fun book.
It's a good book.
It's going to take you on a real cool, fun journey. It's just really book. Very exciting.
Yeah. And I'm going to say, look, this is not a little book.
Wow.
No.
Yeah, a lot of chapters
not
in there.
A little book. I can't see if you can see how that is, but yeah, not a little book.
Yeah.
And the nonfiction book, I'm already telling Anne, and we haven't even formatted it into this size, which is this is 9 by 6. I'm thinking it's going to be over 500 pages. This is close to 400, but the other one, the nonfiction, is going to be huge.
Yeah. So this one here is fiction. So everybody just go out
It's
and enjoy
fiction.
it.
Just enjoy it. Go out. If you believe it, you believe it. If you don't, you don't.
Exactly. And it would make a great gift for people too. And especially maybe people that, are Beatles fans,
Well, and let me tell you this too. We brought in the New World Order aspect into this book, the Illuminati, the New World Order, the sex trafficking of the kids. Jimmy Savile, I don't know if you're familiar with being from Canada, but Jimmy Savile was a very big person in the BBC in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, I think 30, 40 years. The Crown put him in charge of a children's hospital. I think he was a CFO or something. He was a huge pedophile, huge pedophile. He procured children for the Crown. This all came out after he died in 2012, I believe it was. This person knew the Beatles, and this is another aspect of the reason why I think they took Paul out.
Oh, okay. Another big hole.
I'm not going to go more into that, but let's put it this way. New World Order, sex trafficking, child abuse.
Right. And that's something people can definitely research. It's at our fingertips as well. So if that's something that what you're going, what? Come on now. That's just too far-fetched. Well, if there's something inside of you though that's curious, just go and research these things for yourself. Don't listen to
it's out there right now. And the pedophiles that are out there, Jimmy Savile, anybody in Britain's gonna, knows what's going on. I hear different people on their YouTubes talking about this aspect a lot. And we bring this into play.
Yeah, it's just about planting seeds, and then people are responsible for,
Yeah. The internet is a curse for some people, and it's a blessing for others. And if we didn't have the internet, a lot of these things might not have come to light, not on just this aspect, but on lots and lots of information. And I believe because of the awakening that we're going through right now, that this is why a lot of people are now resonating with the fact that, yes, the government can and will replace people. The government took John Lennon out. That was not Mark David Chapman, I believe, was an MK Ultra mind controlled person. And that was a hit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dead bodies, and we get into that too. There is a lot of dead bodies in the wake.
Yeah, a lot of celebrities and things do die mysteriously. There is something to it. And excuse me, again, if people are interested in looking into that further, that's great. And if you think it's just cuckoo, then that's where you're coming.
Well, we gave a great resource book to start taking some of these people. Their manager died, shortly after. One of Paul's friends died 6 weeks after. Their attorney died a couple years later. Jane Asher's father died within a couple years. And then their road manager was writing a tell-all book. The book has disappeared, and he was killed. And it was disappeared when he was killed. And he was taken out by police, which was really a strange thing. And then when you got John, it's like everybody, and other bands that knew.
Yeah, that takes a lot of coincidences to.
Well, and that's the thing, I think, with our nonfiction book, with everything that we're putting in there, how many coincidences make something real? Some people just have to discern this, but it's just, there's too many coincidences.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Yeah. And nothing, I just live by, nothing is impossible. You got to keep open. And that's why it's important to do research so that you can, know for yourself and learn for yourself, and not just listen to what other people are telling you, right? It's just common sense. But so thank you so much for being here. Of course, I'm going to share all your links and things. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll share them in the description on YouTube. And if you're watching on Facebook, I'll share them in the comments of Facebook. Thank you for being here, Marianne.
Thank you for having me, Lonnie. This was awesome. And it's just so nice just to see you and talk to you as well.
Yeah, you too. I think I'm gonna have to get myself that book. And hopefully you guys all feel the same way. It just sounds really like exciting.
Yeah, if it resonates, it resonates. But I think people, once they read it, will say, "Oh my Lord, what the heck are we dealing with?"
Get people thinking, right?
Get people thinking.
That's what books are for. They're
Yeah,
supposed to be
yeah,
getting thought provoking, right? Yeah,
definitely thought provoking. What if?
yeah. What if? What if? It's exciting. All the what ifs. Is there any final thought that you'd like to share with us before we?
Well, no, I mean, I'm out on, I mean, as you know, I mean, I'm out on social media. We're self-published, so it's just word of mouth. And it's very hard to sell a book like this when you're, up against all sorts of things like that.
Yeah.
So, but,
So
we have a Facebook page for the, for the book. And I've opened up a YouTube channel. So these interviews are all in under one umbrella, The Shadow of a Bassman.
cool. Yeah, we're gonna share all of those links.
All those links. Great.
Yes, awesome. Okay, well, it's been
Thank you.
it's been a pleasure, and I hope that the audience enjoyed this as much as I did. And if you want to see more beautiful guests like this, please go to my Life and Birth Mentor YouTube channel to do just that. Everybody have a fantastic day, and thanks
Happy
again.
Easter.
And Easter. Yes, good call. Awesome. Okay, blessings to you.